Newtown Creek is the site of the largest urban oil spill in U.S. history, larger than the Exxon Valdez. In the 1940s and 1950s, it's believed between 17 and 30 million gallons of oil, the higher figure is the EPA's, leaked from storage tanks owned by Standard Oil Company of New York, saturating 55 acres beneath Greenpoint and leaching into the creek. After the Coast Guard's discovery of the plume in 1978, cleanup operations began. Oil recovery efforts have been as sluggish as the waters. As of 2007, only 9.3 million gallons of oil had been recovered, and the pace has slowed since. Incensed by the slow recovery pace, Seagulls helped forge the Newtown Creek Alliance in 2002, a coalition of residents, environmental activists, business leaders, and elected representatives who monitor the environmental health of the creek and the surrounding communities. In 2004, Riverkeeper filed suit against ExxonMobil, which now owns the grounds of Standard Oil's facilities. In January 2007, the organization filed a second suit against ExxonMobil, quote, for discharging toxic chemicals into Newtown Creek, end quote. And in February 2007, State Attorney General Andrew Cuomo notified ExxonMobil and other industrial polluters along the creek of intent to sue, charging, quote, imminent and substantial endangerment to health and to the environment, end quote. He charged that, quote, ExxonMobil has proven itself far less than a model corporate citizen, placing its greed for windfall profits over public safety and the well-being of the environment. The state filed suit in July 2007, and the suits are still pending. Decades before, Greenpoint citizens began agitating for environmental justice. Irene Clementowitz, affectionately called by Seagulls the original environmentalist, came to Greenpoint in 1958, where she and her husband bought a funeral home. When she enrolled her children at the public school, she was shocked to see a plastics company operating across from the school. At home, she noticed black soot coating her windows, persistent stuff that defied her cleaning efforts. Alarmed to think of what her children might be breathing, she was determined to find the source. When she learned that a city incinerator had just opened in her neighborhood, she began a letter-writing campaign to get it shut down, but letters were not enough. I was a housewife trying to raise my children, she told me. My neighbors would tell me they hardly noticed the pollution, they were used to it. I should just raise my kids, clean my house. Well, what's the point of cleaning windows every day when they just get black again? Up in arms at the lack of remedial action, she joined with 4 other women, Elizabeth Ronchetti, Alice Wilkowski, May Sheridan, and Stella Armantiuk, to form the Concerned Citizens of Greenpoint in 1988. Working with legal counsel from New York Lawyers for the Public Interest and the Natural Resources Defense Council, the 5 housewives cited the Greenpoint incinerator for 20 years of violations of the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts, a sound legal strategy that shut the plant down in 1995. Their next target was the city's wastewater treatment plant in Greenpoint. After heavy rains, wastewater pipes back up and capture raw sewage from sewer lines, a perennial problem in New York City, overwhelming the system. Known as the Queen of Sewage, Irene and her cohorts lobbied to block the proposed expansion of the plant, the largest in New York City, until it improved its system. Largely as a result of their efforts, the first phase of construction of the Newtown Creek wastewater treatment plant was completed in 2007. The story of Newtown Creek dramatizes the complex and dynamic economic relationship of persons, humans, to place. Through the lens of this microcosmic urban landscape, we see magnified shifting human economies that reflect changing views of nature. For thousands of years, the creek supported human life, from hunter-gatherers to farmers. The environmental abuse of the creek in its urban industrial phase parallels the corporate and civic disregard for people whose neighborhoods have been polluted and trashed, for factory workers who endured hellish conditions, including exposures to toxins. Now, abandoned industrial sites have become brown fields, and Superfund sites, and old bulkheads along the creek are crumbling. The decline of New York's industries in the late 20th century spelled the decline of many working-class urban neighborhoods like Greenpoint. But neither the creek nor its communities are being consigned to an industrial waste bin. Like much of New York's waterfront, the very industrial uses that once strangled the creek now stand there with historical status. In 2007, the National Trust for Historic Preservation designated the Brooklyn waterfront from Sunset Park to Greenpoint as one of America's 11 most endangered places, nominating it for landmark status. There's a couple of the buildings. Preservation is not only about respecting our cultural history, but also about preserving or restoring natural landmarks like the creek. The question is, can we balance economic and ecological values? A member of the Newtown Creek Alliance, the Greenpoint Manufacturing Design Center is the leading nonprofit industrial developer in New York City, dedicated to preserving an environmentally sustainable industrial base in American cities. GMDC is housed in a solar-powered landmark 1890s era factory on Newtown Creek that they restored. As of 2008, GMDC owned and managed 5 renovated properties that have housed light manufacturers, artists, and artisans, and all 72 studios employing 500 people. Longtime residents like Irene want to see their neighborhood revitalized, and they welcome a chance to have a voice in the planning process. They don't accept any kind of development, such as high-rise buildings, and want to preserve the character of one of New York's oldest working-class neighborhoods. Through decades of environmental activism, they've become stewards of the creek and want to reclaim it as the commons it once was, not to trash, but to preserve. Its ecological value is being restored. In 2008, the state awarded the Newtown Creek Alliance, Riverkeeper, and GMDC a Brownfields Opportunity Area grant of more than $500,000 to fund, quote, a community-driven planning and redevelopment analysis of Newtown Creek and surrounding contaminated sites in Queens and Brooklyn. This creative public-private partnership signals a shift toward a more ecological model of industrial development. Brownfields may revert to greenfields. As Newtown Creek is remade into a residential and recreational waterfront with light industrial zones, pockets of nature are being recovered, wetlands replanted, fish restocked. But it can never be restored to the pristine tidal creek it once was. It's been damaged beyond repair, distorted into a cultural artifact of the Industrial Revolution. Its habitat is a sea of concrete, its waters pocked with dead zones. Yet, egrets stalk patches of mud, and people fish and crab here. People want pedestrian access to the waterside. They want to breathe clean air, and in their gut, they know it's all connected. Human health, a clean environment, a viable creek, and access to nature, however fragmented. Coda. The step where I sit at Newtown Creek Nature Walk is now cast in shadow, and a chill is in the air. Looking across the creek toward Long Island City on the Queens side, I read graffiti-covered signs, caution, gas pipeline, do not dredge. Where barges dock, bulkheads are hung with hundreds of tires. Emblematic of the new recycling industry, huge cranes lift crushed cars like toys and release them onto barges carrying mountains of scrap metal. Around the creek bend, the domes of the wastewater treatment plant reflect the rays of the setting sun. Leaving the park, I take one last look at Manhattan, its towers silhouetted against the sky.